Welcome to our deep dive into the world of economics.
Okay.
Specifically, we're going to be cracking open Henry Hazlitt's economics in one lesson.
Right.
You might be thinking,
Uh-huh.
oh no,
Yeah.
not another economics lesson.
Yeah.
But trust me,
Yeah.
this isn't your typical dry textbook experience.
Right.
We're here to extract those golden nuggets of economic wisdom that can change the way you see the world.
What makes Hazlitt so brilliant is his knack for breaking down complex ideas into simple, relatable terms.
Yeah.
He encourages us to think beyond the immediate visible consequences of economic actions, to consider the ripple effects, those unseen consequences that often go unnoticed.
I love that concept of the seen and the unseen. It's like a secret decoder ring for understanding how economic policies really work.
Precisely. One of the best examples Hazlitt uses to illustrate this is the broken window fallacy.
Okay.
Let's say a vandal smashes a shopkeeper's window.
Yeah.
Some might argue this is good for the economy.
Right.
The shopkeeper has to pay for repairs,
Yeah.
which gives the repairman work. Money is changing hands.
Right.
So it seems like a stimulus.
Right. At first glance,
Yeah.
it might seem like a net positive.
Right.
But Hazlitt urges us to dig deeper.
Exactly. We see the repairman getting paid. That's the seen.
Right.
But what about the unseen? The shopkeeper now has to spend money on repairs that he could have used for something else, like investing in his business, hiring a new employee, or even just taking a well-deserved vacation.
Right.
That money, instead of creating new value,
Yeah.
is simply replacing what was destroyed.
So it's not actually creating economic growth.
Right.
It's just shifting resources around.
Exactly.
And I bet this applies to way more than just broken windows.
Absolutely. Like,
Okay.
think about government spending on disaster relief, for example.
Okay.
Providing aid after a natural disaster is crucial.
Uh-huh.
But if we only focus on the immediate jobs created by the rebuilding effort, we miss a key part of the picture. What could have been done with those resources if the disaster hadn't happened?
Right.
Perhaps new schools could have been built.
Yeah.
Or we could have invested more in groundbreaking medical research. These are the unseen costs.
Yeah.
The opportunities lost.
That idea of opportunity cost is so important.
Yeah.
It makes you realize there's always a trade-off, and every decision has an alternative.
And that leads us to another fascinating point Hazlitt makes about public works projects.
Okay.
We often hear the argument that things like dams, bridges, and roads are great for the economy because they create jobs.
Yes. Infrastructure improvements are generally seen as a good thing.
Uh-huh.
So where's the unseen cost there?
Well, Hazlitt asks a simple question.
What's that?
Where does the money for these projects come from?
Okay.
Often it's from taxes.
Right.
This means taxpayers have less money to spend or invest themselves,
Right.
potentially leading to job losses in other areas.
It's like an economic balancing act.
Exactly.
Gains in one area might lead to losses in another.
Right.
We can't just look at the immediate impact.
Mm-hmm.
We have to consider those ripple effects across the whole economy.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And this raises a crucial question. Are the jobs created by these public works projects more productive and beneficial to society than the jobs that might be lost in other sectors due to higher taxes? That's the kind of critical thinking Hazlitt encourages us to engage in.
It's not about being against infrastructure or government spending altogether.
Right.
It's about weighing the costs and benefits carefully and considering the broader impact on the economy.
Exactly. And speaking of taxes,
Okay.
Hazlitt doesn't shy away from tackling their impact on production.
Yep.
It seems pretty intuitive that if businesses face higher taxes,
Right.
they'll have less incentive to invest and grow,
Uh-huh.
which could ultimately hurt economic growth.
Right. High taxes could make entrepreneurs think twice before taking risks and innovating.
What's fascinating is that Hazlitt isn't advocating for no taxes whatsoever. He recognizes that a certain level of taxation is necessary to fund essential public services.
Right.
His key point is that we need to be aware of the trade-offs. If we tax profits too heavily, we risk discouraging those who create jobs and drive economic progress.
So it's about finding that sweet spot, that balance between generating enough tax revenue to support necessary public services while also fostering a climate that encourages entrepreneurship and innovation.
Precisely. Now, this brings us to another area where Hazlitt urges caution.
Okay.
The manipulation of credit markets.
Okay.
On the surface, Credit seems like a good thing. It allows businesses to invest people to buy homes and the economy to expand.
It's true. Access to credit is often seen as the lifeblood of a healthy economy.
Right.
But I have a feeling Hazlitt sees a potential downside here as well.
Yeah.
What are the unseen consequences of credit?
Hazlitt cautions that artificially expanding credit can distort the economy in dangerous ways. Think of it like this. If loans are too easy to obtain, it can lead to a misallocation of resources. Businesses might invest in ventures that aren't truly productive, fueling speculative bubbles that are bound to burst eventually.
I see where you're going with this.
Right.
Easy credit can create a false sense of prosperity,
Yes.
leading to reckless investments and unsustainable economic growth.
Exactly. And this reminds me of the 2008 financial crisis,
Yeah.
where easy lending practices played a major role in inflating the housing bubble.
Right.
Millions of people took out mortgages they couldn't afford. Banks bundled these risky loans into complex financial instruments.
Right.
And when the bubble burst, the entire global financial system was shaken.
That's a stark reminder of how seemingly beneficial policies like promoting homeownership through easy credit can have devastating unintended consequences.
Absolutely.
It's like playing with economic fire.
Precisely. And Hazlitt's warnings about credit manipulation are just as relevant today as they were decades ago. We need to be wary of attempts to artificially stimulate the economy through easy money policies.
Right.
They might provide a short-term boost,
Yeah.
but they often come with hidden costs that can come back to haunt us down the road.
This concept of unseen consequences is so powerful.
Mm-hmm.
It really makes you question those economic policies that seem like a quick fix.
Exactly. And this leads us to another area where Hazlitt challenges conventional wisdom.
Okay.
The impact of machines and automation on employment.
Uh,
There's this pervasive fear that robots are coming to steal our jobs.
Yikes.
That technology will leave millions of people unemployed and struggling to make ends meet.
It's a common fear, especially as we see more and more tasks being automated.
Yeah.
You can feel like a losing battle against the machines.
But Hazlitt offers a different perspective.
Okay.
He argues that while technological advancements inevitably displace some jobs, they also create new ones.
Okay.
Think about it. The invention of the automobile wiped out jobs in the horse-drawn carriage industry. But it also gave rise to countless new jobs in manufacturing, repair, sales, and the entire ecosystem that sprung up around automobiles.
It's like the economy is constantly evolving.
Yes.
Adapting to new technologies and creating new opportunities along the way.
Exactly. And if we look back through history,
Uh-huh.
it's clear that technology overall has led to more jobs, not fewer.
Yeah.
The computer revolution alone has created a mind-boggling number of jobs that didn't exist a few decades ago.
Right.
Software developers, web designers, data analysts, cybersecurity experts. The list goes on and on.
It's fascinating to think about how technology,
Yeah.
while disrupting certain sectors,
Right.
also opens up new frontiers and possibilities that we couldn't have imagined before.
And that's a key takeaway from Hazlitt's work. Instead of fearing automation, we should focus on adapting our skills and education systems to prepare for the jobs of the future. It's a challenge, but it's also an incredible opportunity to create a more dynamic and prosperous economy.
This idea of embracing change and adapting to new technologies is so crucial,
Yes.
especially in today's rapidly evolving world. We can't cling to the past.
Right.
We have to be prepared to evolve with the times.
Precisely. And that brings us to another type of policy Hazlitt critiques.
Okay.
Those spread the work schemes that aim to combat unemployment by spreading available work among more people,
Right.
often by shortening the work week.
It sounds like a well-intentioned idea on the surface.
Yeah.
Reducing individual work hours to create more jobs.
Right.
But I'm guessing Hazlitt sees a flaw in this logic.
He does.
Right.
Hazlitt argues that these schemes ultimately backfire by making businesses less efficient and less competitive. Think about it this way.
Okay.
If a company is forced to hire more workers to do the same amount of work,
Right.
their labor costs will increase. To compensate, they'll likely have to raise prices or cut wages,
Right.
which ends up hurting both consumers and workers.
So these well-intentioned policies could actually lead to higher prices,
Yeah.
lower wages, or even job losses in the long run.
Exactly.
Wow.
Hazlitt points out that these schemes are based on the false premise that there's only a fixed amount of work to go around in a thriving economy. However,
Yeah.
new opportunities emerge,
Right.
creating more work, not less.
Yeah.
Policies that artificially restrict productivity end up hindering this natural growth process.
It's like trying to force the economy into a predetermined box instead of allowing it to adapt and flourish organically.
Exactly.
And that brings us to our last topic for this part of our deep dive.
Yeah.
Tariffs and protectionism. This is an issue that has been debated for centuries,
Yes.
and it's still very much relevant today.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The basic idea behind tariffs is to protect domestic industries from foreign competition by imposing taxes on imported goods.
Cool.
This might seem like a good way to safeguard American jobs and businesses,
Right.
but as you might expect, Hazlitt sees things a bit differently.
I'm starting to see a pattern here.
Yeah.
What are the unseen consequences lurking beneath the surface of these seemingly protective tariffs?
Hazlitt argues that while tariffs might benefit specific industries in the short term, they harm consumers in the long run.
Right.
Let's take a real-world example. If a tariff is imposed on imported steel,
Okay.
it makes steel more expensive for everyone who uses it.
Right.
Car manufacturers, construction companies, appliance makers, and so on. These higher costs are then often passed on to consumers in the form of higher prices.
It's essentially a hidden tax that everyone ends up paying,
Yeah.
whether they realize it or not.
Right.
And it seems like it would discourage those businesses that rely on that imported steel from being competitive on the global market.
You're exactly right.
Yeah.
And it also makes domestic producers less competitive.
Oh.
They're shielded from the pressure to innovate and keep prices low because they know they're protected from foreign competition.
So it's a classic case of short-term gain for a few at the expense of long-term harm for many.
Precisely.
Hazlitt really emphasizes that we need to be wary of policies that look like quick fixes, but end up having negative unintended consequences down the road.
Exactly. And that's a perfect segue to our final takeaway from this part of our deep dive into Hazlitt's economics in one lesson.
Okay.
He challenges us to be skeptical of simple solutions to complex economic problems.
Yeah.
Always ask yourself, what are the unseen costs? Who benefits and who bears the burden?
Right.
These are the questions that separate sound economic thinking from superficial analysis.
It's about looking beyond the surface, considering the ripple effects, and understanding that the economy is a complex, interconnected system where every action has a reaction.
Precisely. You know what's striking about Hazlitt's writing is his ability to use simple, relatable examples to explain these intricate economic principles.
Yeah.
The broken window, the public works, project the tariff on steel.
Yeah.
These are scenarios we can all grasp.
That's what makes economics in one lesson such a timeless classic.
Right.
It cuts through the jargon and gets to the heart of how economic forces shape our lives.
Yeah.
And it's incredibly relevant to the issues we face today.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Take the current debate surrounding government spending, for instance. Hazlitt's insights about public works and taxes are more relevant than ever.
Right.
We're constantly presented with proposals for new programs.
Right.
But how often do we pause and ask where the funding comes from and what the unseen costs might be?
It's easy to get swept up in the excitement of a new initiative.
Right.
Especially when it promises job creation or addresses a pressing social issue.
Sure. Yeah.
Hazlitt encourages us to take a step back and think about the long-term implications.
Precisely. It's not about being opposed to government spending altogether. It's about being thoughtful and discerning.
Right.
How can we utilize limited resources most effectively? Are there unforeseen consequences to consider? Are there alternative approaches that might be more efficient or sustainable?
These are challenging questions.
Yeah.
But we can't afford to ignore them.
Right.
Hazlitt equips us with the tools to approach them in a more nuanced way.
One thing I admire about Hazlitt is his emphasis on individual responsibility and the power of free markets. He doesn't view government as the solution to every problem.
He's a strong advocate for free markets, but he also acknowledges their limitations.
Right.
He recognizes that there are instances where government intervention is necessary, such as regulating monopolies or providing a safety net for those in need.
Exactly. He's not an ideologue.
Right.
But a pragmatist who believes in applying common sense and sound economic principles to policy decisions.
That's what makes his work so refreshing.
Yeah.
He's not pushing an agenda. He's simply trying to help people understand how economics works and how to apply those principles to real-world problems.
He does so in a way that's engaging and accessible. He's like that friend who can explain complex topics and make you say, aha, now I get it.
Exactly. He's not condescending. He's having a conversation with you. That's what makes economics in one lesson such a valuable resource. It empowers you to think critically about the economic forces that shape our lives.
It's remarkable how Hazlitt's ideas,
Yes.
written over 75 years ago,
Right.
still resonate so strongly today.
It speaks to the enduring power of his logic and the timelessness of the principles he outlines.
Yeah.
The world has changed drastically since he wrote the book,
Yeah.
but the fundamental economic truths he identified remain as relevant as ever.
That's why it's crucial to revisit these ideas periodically. They provide a framework for understanding the complexities of the modern economy and evaluating the policies that impact our lives.
It's like having a mental toolkit to analyze any economic issue,
Yeah.
whether it's taxes, trade government spending, or the impact of technology.
Exactly.
Hazlitt gives you the ability to cut through the noise and see the underlying dynamics.
He's a valuable guide in today's world,
Right.
where we're bombarded with information from all sides. Yeah.
He teaches us to be discerning consumers of economic news and analysis and to think for ourselves.
One thing that struck me while rereading Economics in One Lesson was Hazlitt's constant emphasis on considering the long-term consequences of our actions. It's easy to get caught up in the short term and focus on the immediate benefits of a policy or decision.
That's human nature, isn't it?
Yeah.
We're wired to prioritize the present over the future.
Right.
But Hazlitt reminds us that those short-term gains often carry hidden costs down the road, and those costs can be substantial.
It's like the old saying, there's no such thing as a free lunch. Someone always has to foot the bill,
Exactly.
whether it's taxpayers, consumers, or future generations.
That's why it's vital to have a framework for evaluating economic policies that looks beyond the immediate obvious impacts. Hazlitt provides that framework. He teaches us to ask the tough questions. What are the unseen consequences? Who benefits and who bears the burden?
And he encourages us to think about the ripple effects. How will a particular policy affect not just one group,
but the entire economy? What are the long-term implications for innovation, productivity, and economic growth?
It's about taking a holistic view and understanding that the economy is a complex system with interconnected parts. A seemingly simple solution to one problem could have unintended consequences in other areas.
It's like the butterfly effect.
Yeah.
Where a small change in one part of the system can have a cascading impact on the whole.
Exactly. That's why Hazlitt's emphasis on considering the unseen is so crucial. It forces us to consider the bigger picture, to move beyond narrow self-interest, and think about the well-being of society as a whole.
You know, one of the most common criticisms of economics is that it's a dry, abstract subject detached from reality.
Yeah.
But Hazlitt demonstrates that economics is actually about people.
It's about how individuals make decisions, how those decisions interact in the marketplace, and how those interactions shape the overall economy. It's about the choices we make as a society, the policies we implement, and the impact those choices have on our lives.
He humanizes economics by grounding it in real-world examples and relatable scenarios.
By doing so, he makes it clear that economics isn't just for academics or policymakers. It's something we all need to understand because it affects every aspect of our lives.
It's about our jobs, businesses, investments, the prices we pay, the quality of our education and healthcare, and ultimately our standard of living.
Economics is about the choices we make and the trade-offs we face both individually and collectively. It's about understanding the consequences of those choices, both seen and unseen.
You know, one thing that really struck me as I revisited Hazlitt's work was his unwavering belief in the power of human ingenuity and the resilience of the free market.
Despite all the challenges we face, he remains optimistic that we can overcome them through innovation, hard work, and sound economic policies.
He doesn't sugarcoat the difficulties. He acknowledges that there will be setbacks and disruptions along the way, but he believes that ultimately we have the capacity to create a more prosperous and equitable future for ourselves and for generations to come.
That's a message of hope that I think we all need to hear, especially in these uncertain times. It's a reminder that we have the power to shape our own destiny, to create a world where everyone has the opportunity to thrive.
And it's a call to action. It's a challenge to each of us to engage in the economic conversation, to learn about the issues, to ask tough questions, and to demand sound policies that promote long-term prosperity for all.
Hazlitt reminds us that we're not merely passive observers in the economic system.
Yeah.
We're active participants, and our choices matter.
That's a powerful message. It empowers us to take ownership of our economic future and work together to create a more just and prosperous world.
One thing that Hazlitt emphasizes is the importance of understanding the difference between wealth and money.
It's a distinction that's often overlooked,
Right.
but it's crucial for grasping how economics truly works.
Money is simply a medium of exchange. It facilitates transactions.
Yes.
But isn't wealth itself, right?
Wealth is the goods and services we produce and consume. The food we eat, the clothes we wear, the homes we live in, the healthcare and education we receive.
It's the things that enhance our lives and improve our standard of living.
Precisely. Hazlitt reminds us that the goal of economic activity isn't to accumulate money for its own sake. It's to produce real wealth that benefits people.
So it's not about the amount of money circulating in the economy,
Right.
but how that money is used to produce goods and services.
And it's about ensuring that the benefits of economic growth are widely shared, allowing everyone to participate and prosper.
You know, it's easy to get lost in the technicalities of economics.
Yeah.
But Hazlitt reminds us that at its core, it's a very human subject.
Yeah.
It's about people's needs, wants, aspirations, struggles,
Right.
and their efforts to create a better life for themselves and their families.
It's about understanding the forces that shape those efforts,
Yeah,
the policies that help or hinder them,
right.
and the choices we make as individuals and as a society. It's about using our knowledge of economics to make informed decisions that promote individual well-being and the common good.
That's why Hazlitt's Economics in One Lesson remains such a valuable resource. It empowers us to think critically about the economic issues of our time and engage in the conversation meaningfully.
It's a reminder that economics isn't just for experts. It's something we all need to understand because it affects every aspect of our lives. One thing that really stands out in Hazlitt's work is his willingness to challenge conventional wisdom.
Right.
He doesn't shy away from tackling those widely accepted economic truths that often turn out to be myths.
He's a master at debunking those common sense assumptions that don't always hold up under closer scrutiny. A prime example of this is his chapter on the curse of machinery.
Right.
He addresses the fear, which has been around since the Industrial Revolution, that automation and new technologies will inevitably lead to widespread unemployment.
It's easy to see why people worry about this.
Right.
We see robots replacing factory workers, software automating tasks that used to require human input. And it's natural to wonder, what does this mean for the future of jobs?
It's a valid concern.
Right.
But Hazlitt argues that this fear is often misplaced. He acknowledges that new technologies will displace workers in certain industries.
Right.
But he also points out that they create new industries and new jobs that we couldn't have even imagined before.
It's like the classic example of the horse and buggy drivers who were put out of work by the invention of the automobile.
Exactly.
But in their place came a whole new set of jobs in car manufacturing, sales, repair, and the entire industry that grew up around the automobile.
Exactly. And we've seen this pattern repeat itself throughout history. The invention of the computer led to the decline of the typewriter industry.
Right.
But it also gave birth to the entire tech sector,
Yeah.
which employs millions of people today.
So it's not a zero-sum game. It's not as if there's a fixed number of jobs.
Right.
And technology just keeps shrinking that number. Instead, technology expands the possibilities,
Yeah.
creating new opportunities alongside the old ones that fade away.
Precisely. Hazlitt emphasizes that this process of creative destruction is vital for economic progress. It's how we innovate, increase productivity, and ultimately improve our standard of living over time.
It's about embracing change,
Right.
adapting to new technologies, and equipping ourselves with the skills and knowledge we need to thrive in an ever-evolving economy.
Exactly. One of Hazlitt's most important contributions is his emphasis on the interconnectedness of the economy. He demonstrates how actions taken in one sector can create ripple effects throughout the entire system.
It reminds me of that saying, you can't do just one thing. Every economic decision has consequences, both intended and unintended.
And that's why it's crucial to think holistically, to consider the long-term implications of our actions, and to anticipate potential unintended consequences.
He underscores the idea that we can't simply focus on isolated problems or the needs of specific interest groups. We have to understand how all the pieces of the economic puzzle fit together.
And we must recognize that there are often trade-offs involved. What may appear beneficial for one group might have adverse effects on another.
It's about finding that balance, that sweet spot where policies promote individual freedom and serve the common good. And this is where Hazlitt's insights are so valuable. He provides a framework for grappling with these complex issues in a clear, logical, and compassionate way.
He doesn't offer simplistic solutions or easy answers. Instead, he challenges us to think critically, weigh the costs and benefits, and make informed decisions that will contribute to a more prosperous and equitable future for all.
Hazlitt's work serves as a powerful reminder that economics is not just about abstract numbers and statistics. It's about people,
Right.
their choices, and the impact of those choices on their lives and the world around them.
It's about understanding how the world works, how we can improve it, and how we can create a society that provides opportunities for everyone to flourish.
His book, Economics in One Lesson, gives us the tools and the inspiration to embark on that journey of understanding and positive change.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Hazlitt's brilliant work,
Yeah.
we encourage you to keep exploring these ideas. Pick up a copy of Economics in One Lesson, or revisit it if it's been a while.
Right.
It's a book that has the power to change the way you see the world.
And remember, Hazlitt's insights are more relevant than ever in today's complex and constantly evolving economy. Keep asking those tough questions. Keep challenging conventional wisdom. And keep in mind those unseen consequences that often lurk beneath the surface. Until next time, happy exploring.